Bobby, and
job.
you have become the princess ballerina.
Hey, nobody
Congrats,
wants to
man.
see me dress up like a ballerina, but I can be a pretty good princess if you ask my daughters.
Before we begin, here's a quick disclaimer. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Nothing shared on this show should be taken as professional guidance. If you're struggling or feel you may be in crisis, please call 988. Reach out to a qualified mental health professional or someone you trust who can connect you with immediate support, or call 911 for emergencies. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Men Up Together podcast. This is our second episode. My name is Alex Peskin, and I'm here with my co-host and lifelong friend, Bobby Jacobs. And we are excited to see where things go again.
Yeah, this is exciting. First episode was a lot of fun.
We are so glad you're joining us again, or if this is your first time, we're happy to have you here. We are trying to make room for this to be something that can be a window into the process of growing. So we aren't going to tell people what to do. We're trying to do it ourselves. We're trying to grow. We're trying to man up, but create a different meaning of what man up looks like.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier when we were talking. It's this journey into working through these things together. Right? There's that together part of it.
Together.
But it's also this opportunity for us to listen to all of the other challenges and all the other things that historically people were just, hey, just man up, get over it.
Rub some dirt on
Deal
them.
with it.
Yeah.
Right? No. Let's man up together. And by that we mean let's do it together. Right. And let's work together. Let's listen together, learn together, all those things. And then we're gonna laugh. Maybe we'll cry. It's a good thing. Right. But we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's going to be good. When I was re-listening to the episode, just to make sure to be aware of for the next episode, it was interesting because there was something that I noticed. We talked last time about there's a lot of things that make us the same, and there's a lot about us that makes us different. And just to reflect a little bit personally, I recognized when especially we were talking about who we are, our history, how we grew up, my answers came out as the therapist who, this isn't about me. I'm not supposed to do too much divulging or self-disclosure.
You answered as yourself? What a shocker.
Yeah. And I'm also a little more reserved and a little bit less quick to talk about myself. And I noticed the difference in the two of us. I was very concise is a nice way to put it. And
you're saying I talk too much?
I was going to get
You're not the first one, don't worry.
I was going to get there. And when I was listening to you, wasn't that you talk too much? I was hearing someone who does this, is practice at this, is comfortable with this. I think you knew what you wanted to say and had ideas in your head of how it was going to come out. And for me, I had parents and an okay upbringing. Cool.
But I think that's the cool part of this, right? Is as we kind of dive into this, right? We're not just learning about each other. We're also learning about ourselves. We're recognizing these things. We're identifying these trends. And what's really exciting about it is identifying the why behind some of that. So you noticed in your answers that they were concise. They were maybe, you use the word vague, whatever you want to say. It's like, okay, well, why?
Yeah.
And that's what we talked a little bit about in the last episode, was this concept of our backgrounds influencing the people that we are, influencing our visions of manhood, influencing our visions of how we see the world around us. But it's also, at the simplest level, it really influences who we are as people sitting in these chairs, talking to each other, how we respond to questions, how we think about those answers. And I think that's what's exciting about all of this. And it's going to be eye-opening. It's going to be enlightening, taking a second to go, all right, this is the person that I am today, because I think that changes. Why?
Yeah. So even just thinking about that now, I think it feels safer for me.
Yeah.
Just give a little bit. It felt safe in that moment to give a little bit and retreat to my safe corner.
Yeah.
And I hope throughout this process, it becomes a little easier and safer for me to see, walk out of that corner.
Yeah.
be real, be open, do something together
Yeah.
instead of hiding yourself.
So one of the things that I've kind of thought about and as we've gone down this path, right? We talked about, we've been friends forever. What's so cool is that we're still learning about each other and about our backgrounds
Yeah.
and about who we are and what makes us who we are. And I'll be honest with you, one of the most fun parts of doing this are the conversations that happen before we push record.
Yeah.
It's that opportunity for us to just sit and chat for a couple of minutes. And not that we don't have that, but sometimes I think that people don't take those opportunities to have those. And I'm not saying you have to have a deep conversation with your friends on a weekly basis.
But it's also safer and easier not to. And when we have time, we revert to the things that feel easiest and safest. And I feel very connected to you.
Yeah.
Because we have a history and we're talking about something from our lives and it feels great, or joking about things that have happened to us or people we know about.
Sure.
Talking about sports just because I'm talking to someone who matters to me. I feel close.
Yeah.
But I think you're bringing up a great point here. Leveling up that experience is available too. You are still that person, but what if we are talking about something deeper, more meaningful, even more together?
Yeah. And so for the people that are listening, right, it's that opportunity to maybe take a look at those people in your life who you can man up together with, and who you can offer that to and who can offer that to you. It's this opportunity, think of like building a trust, right? Everybody, they all lean, every piece is important. So
I like that. And we have a podcast now.
Who
So
podcast
now you say, and if you think of someone in your life, you should share this podcast with them. And 3 people
there you go.
know.
There you go.
I guess we have to do that. That's actually something I'm also noticing I'm very uncomfortable with is promoting any of this. My wife has been working on the Instagram. You can find us on Instagram, Men Up Together podcast. And she sent it to people and sent it to my family. Hey, follow Alex and Bobby on this. And I said to her, well, I guess my family knows I'm doing this now. Why didn't you tell them? I'm hiding. It's scary.
Right?
So it's definitely personal things.
I don't want to hear what they have to say about this.
Nobody look at me. I want to do this and nobody look at me. Yeah.
All right. Episode 2.
Let's do this thing. We're going to talk about Big Daddy today and our big daddy issues because it just feels right to do that. The movie itself, I feel like, has some really good male figures in there and male issues in there that we'll be able to talk about.
And we both have enjoyed this movie since it was released in 1999. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
When I rewatched it for this, I forgot how much I knew.
Right.
And used to quote that. It was a nice blast from the past.
This is a good one.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good parenting ideas as well. And so I feel like it makes sense for us to be introducing ourselves as parents and the parents that we had. At least we're going to go dads this time. We also have moms.
Right. We'll get into
they're very important and they were integral parts of raising us. We're just on the dad part right now. In that light, we also want to talk about what it was like to think about having kids and learn what it meant to have kids.
We talk about that journey. I think that's part of this seasons of life. And there's a journey throughout the whole becoming a dad, becoming a parent, deciding you want to do that with your partner, finding out that you're going to be a dad, and then all the things that come along with that. Zoe Darwin and coworkers published a study, and it was showing that 5 to 10% of men experience perinatal depression. So around that birthing time, before and after, and then 5 to 15% experience perinatal anxiety. And for me, and I'll just speak for myself, I didn't give it a name when I was in that period, but I recognize now, looking back, that I had severe anxiety around every single aspect. From the time that we found out that we were going to have a child, it went very quickly into, okay, I got to know everything about this baby. I got to make sure everything's good. And for us, everything didn't go exactly as the textbook says. And I think that's probably more typical than it is atypical. And so there was a lot of anxiety for me around that. And then as we continued down that journey, and we had our daughter, and thankfully everything was healthy. My wife came through delivery okay. Everything then changed so quickly. So again, I think this is where we have that conversation, that man up of, we have to make sure that we are there for our partners during that period, but we also need to make sure we're there for ourselves, and we can be there for our other fellow men that are going through these same periods of their lives, these same challenges. at least for our first child, we did it right around the same time. Our wives were pregnant for most of their pregnancies at the same time. It's a journey.
For sure. Yeah, and I think we'll talk more about that in the frame of the movie as well.
Yeah.
But definitely a journey, and really so much to learn about myself through all of that, and things that are shifted and changed and destroyed along the way.
Best laid plans. Best laid plans.
Yeah. So let's talk about Big Daddy a little bit. Do you want to give a quick rundown of this 1999 movie?
To me, this is classic Adam Sandler. All of his friends are in the movie. We get introduced to the youngest Jon Stewart I think I've ever seen. So the movie opens up, you've got Adam Sandler as Sonny being the main character in the movie. And Sonny is a bachelor living on his own in New York City, I think. And there's a young boy who arrives at their doorstep, and the young boy's name is Julian, who's the other main character in the movie. Sonny decides that he's going to claim the child, pretend to be his roommate. So Julian comes into Sonny's life. And there's, of course, all the Adam Sandler, trials, tribulations, funny parts of the movie, all of his friends that come into it. And then the social worker who's responsible for Julian finds out that Sonny is actually not his biological father, and that Sonny has been illegally claiming responsibility for Julian. So Julian is removed from Sonny's care. And Sonny is basically doing whatever he can to prove that he should be, the guardian of Julian. The end of the movie ends with Sonny doesn't actually get custody of the child, and his biological father does, but Sonny becomes a very significant person in Julian's life. And not only that, Sonny's whole life has changed. The person that Sonny is at the end of the movie is this responsible lawyer who doesn't have time for a surprise party. And you contrast that to the beginning of the movie where he's carrying a surfboard around New York City because he had an impulse purchase, right? Yeah. 30,000 foot view. If you haven't seen Big Daddy, go see Big Daddy.
I guess maybe we should have said spoiler alert, but I don't think you can say that for 25-year-old movies.
Probably not.
Okay. So what we're going to do when we talk about movies is find some main male characters and understand them as men in order to be able to make sense of things that are happening in our lives, things that are happening in other people's lives who are near and dear to us, or people who we don't like and are struggling with something and maybe frustrate us a lot. But one thing that I want to be able to do is be able to hopefully shift our lens a little bit. We're so easy to judge, and I think there's so much value to having curiosity and compassion. What is really going on for this person versus just saying this guy sucks, or whatever it is. So I want to be able to practice that in here too. And we picked Sonny, Sonny's dad, and Julian, also known as
Frankenstein.
Man gets to pick your own name, right? And so I think those will be three really good ones to talk about. But before we go into that, there were a few things that came up in the movie that I also wanted to talk about that maybe aren't the same deep dive man kind of thing, but stood out to me. I didn't remember this. I think the friend group that they showed was 5 guys. They all went to law school together. Some of them lived together. And 2 of them were now in a romantic relationship with each other. And I believe this was the first time I saw 2 men kiss in my life. Watching this movie, 1999 wasn't something that was as mainstream, as visible as it is now. And when I was watching, I realized, this was probably the first time I was introduced to seeing it isn't just always a man and a woman.
Right.
And that just stood out to me. I would say that some of the way that they depicted the gay couple was a little bit.
It doesn't age as well as it maybe.
They pushed it a little bit and they made fun of it a little bit. But also, even one of those 5 friends, he also talked about it a little bit in ways that sound like he was a little uncomfortable. And
Sonny called
Adam
him out.
said,
he called
Sonny
him out.
said something about it because it was being talked about. These are our friends. We care about them. They love each other.
I think the only difference is
the only difference is they watch a different kind of porn and shower together.
Right.
That was the only difference. I do like, though, that they brought that up.
Yeah.
That they brought up someone is struggling with, what does this mean about my friends? And another person said, this is our friends.
Yeah,
and
they're still our friends.
Yeah.
It's no different than it ever was.
Yeah, right? I just thought that was cool to be reminded that this was one of the first times that probably a lot of people saw this on a screen. Another one is talking a little bit about the foster care, adoption, and legal system. And a lot of what came up in the case manager's office or when he was there were struggles to find the line of what's ethical, appropriate, legal, correct, incorrect.
And those lines intersected and were blurred and did not jive. And I think that's the reality. One of the things that we both have in common is we have friends that have navigated that adoption procedure.
Mhm.
And what I can say from my experience in seeing that from an outsider's perspective is it's challenging and it's sometimes really hard to see that from the outside. And this movie, I would say, portrayed that in a really accurate light.
Yeah, what I liked was getting to see the professional on that side go through his ethical dilemmas.
He struggled too.
In the beginning, he said, yeah, I'll pretend you weren't here. Just take him for the weekend. We don't want to put him in a foster home overnight. He ended with coming into the home and taking him away because it was fraudulent and very illegal.
He ended up doing
the
right thing. I think one of the things that we always
It gets like the right thing and the right thing and the right thing.
Right. It's like, is it the right thing, but is it the correct thing?
Mhm.
And I watch football and it's like, is it the right call or is it the correct call? It might be the correct call, but
it was such a cool play. Let him go.
It was pass interference, but who cares, right? So, so I think that that's 100% a really good observation because, again, that's a man in the movie who was struggling with his own view of how things should be.
I think important to have compassion for those people in all the stories as well.
Absolutely.
Kill the messenger feels somewhat
right.
like it makes sense in this situation here.
He's got his job too.
Yeah. And then there was a third thing that came up, and I do think that this is worth a deep dive. Not today, not with this movie, but I do think there's something here. When watching the movie, a lot of what Sonny was doing was trying to start conversations with women and trying to date women and trying to meet women and trying to kiss women. And when I was watching him in the park trying to pick up a woman by having a little boy run over, and if you don't go out with Sonny tonight, there's a good chance I could develop a stutter. Please don't do this to me. It's a classic. Amazing. However, I think that might be a dying practice.
I think having conversations, whether it's face to face, over the phone, it's a dying practice. One of the things that I get to do in my job and in previous roles has been mentoring younger generations. And I hate, I'm not old. We're not old.
But if you could say you're mentoring a younger generation, Bobby, you might be getting old.
And it's this conversation of how do different generations communicate with each other. And I think we are seeing this change in people not wanting to have deeper conversations, more reliant on technology as technology has progressed. I think we should go into this and the dating scene today. We probably have to bring someone who can discuss today's dating scene. But I think there's a conversation there of that is a dying
life skill. Being able to have the confidence or bravery, even if you are uncomfortable, go up to someone you don't know and start a conversation and see what it's like to have that back and forth. A lot of what dating is now is I think you have your line that you message when you match with somebody. And I think that's a lot different than in real life. And it's becoming the norm.
Sure.
Again, I think it might be useful to talk about what is being lost by no longer having the face-to-face as much anymore.
Yeah, come to think of it, there was a cell phone in the movie, but it was really interesting because it was, and he only had one. He asked to borrow somebody's cell phone because he had a cell phone for a specific purpose, and it definitely wasn't an iPhone or an Android in your case. So it was an intentional part of that. And again, not saying that we shouldn't progress as a society. We shouldn't, utilize technology to its best opportunities.
What we're sitting here too, talking about the idea that connection and joining with someone as a human is valuable, the together part of this. Right. And I think that gets lost or it is unpracticed or is just more rare in everyone's lives. And I think the more of it, the better.
I would agree.
Will be something, again, to talk more about in the future. Let's get into the three men that we did choose, boys, that we chose to talk about, because there'll be a really good shift into some deeper ways to think about all of this. And Sonny is the main character, but we should start by talking about his dad.
Yeah.
He was only in 2 or 3 parts of it. One in the beginning, he had a phone call. In the end, he was in court. I think there was one more phone call somewhere in there. So let's start with what we saw. One thing that stood out to me was
get that kid back before you ruin both your lives.
Tough, critical.
Didn't come off as outwardly emotionally available to Sonny. There was that underlying, you could tell that Sonny was an important person in his life and that he did love his son, but it wasn't Sonny and his dad run to each other, open arms at the airport and give each other a big hug. Sonny, I think what I took from, at least from the beginning of the movie, that conversation on the phone, was that maybe his dad was a little disappointed in who Sonny was currently in his life. He was disappointed in the decisions that he made. But what I took from the movie too was that he was disappointed because he saw a different potential and he saw an opportunity that was squandered, where we learn as we go through the movie that Sonny went to law school. You know, you don't see that in the beginning of the movie, right? You see Sonny as, I think he's working as a toll collector on the highway.
And they throw little things in too, where he was very intelligent. One of the
legal
people
advice,
who was a lawyer, advice,
Yeah.
and he wasn't just someone who got through law school. It sounded like they wanted to show him as somebody who was squandering an opportunity in his dad's eyes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so his dad was a conflicted character through some of the movie, and then as we get to the end of the movie, a very conflicted character, and at least one that had that contradiction in his head switch very quickly at the end of the movie, where he became from an opponent of his son to an ardent supporter of his son. You know,
He saw the shift.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about this from our lens a little bit. So before we get into that, I wonder how you think Sonny experienced his dad as his dad.
Yeah. I think
actually, let's make sure that we truly disclaimer this.
Right.
We are using this to try and understand humanity.
Yeah.
We are not pretending we know these fictional characters or what the authors of the story were truly trying to do. We're just saying, here's an opportunity to take an example and try and understand humanity. We might be understanding ourselves. We might be understanding our dad. We might be understanding our neighbor. We might be understanding our best friend who's really struggling with something, but we can't figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And so just to be clear on that, we don't actually know these things.
Right.
This is just an exercise for us.
You think Sonny grew up probably in a little bit of a privileged life, where he sounds like mom and dad were both in the picture. And it sounds like they grew up in a relatively stable financial situation. Dad being a prominent lawyer in South Florida. I think Sonny's dad probably was somebody that pushed Sonny to a point where maybe there was a little bit of that rebellion happening. And that's where I think Sonny comes off as that character in the beginning of the movie who is, again, not living up to the standards that maybe his father was hoping that he was going to have for him. And maybe those expectations of, I'm a lawyer, you went to law school, you're going to be a lawyer, and so on and so on. And that's what's going to happen. When I look at that and I see how Sonny is now reacting to that, that makes a little bit of sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a concept, the type of therapy that I do is called emotionally focused therapy. And there's different tracks you can train, and they're all based on the same attachment science, but there's individual, couples, and family emotionally focused therapy. And when I did the family training, the thing that stood out to me most was the most powerful way you can ally with the parent. Right? When you're with a parent and their child in therapy, so much of what you're doing is helping the child feel safe and heard and understood. But the way to get to that with the parent without alienating them is by understanding their humanity. And the key to all of that is recognizing that just about anything a parent is doing with their child can be traced back to their care for the child.
Interesting.
Even if it is they're yelling at their child, they're calling him and berating him for being useless and whatever is happening in this movie, that it can be traced back to the care. And I think you named this a little bit. He's a little disappointed.
Right.
He's maybe scared for his son because he learned what success looks like and what you're supposed to do as a man and how you're supposed to raise a family. And he knows his son is capable, intelligent, and not delivering. He's probably scared, worried about his son.
Yeah.
And so he is destroying him. He's critical. He's angry. He's mean. He calls him names. But if we were able to trace this back, that's also probably what he learned. This is tough love.
Yeah.
This is how you show someone you care about them. This is how you make someone successful. I imagine words that generation used. You don't coddle.
Right.
You push them into the fire.
You demand.
Yeah.
You rub some dirt on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It truly is through care. If you didn't care, one thing that I realized in all of this too is they had several phone calls and interactions throughout this movie. They obviously loved each other, cared about each other, found each other important in their lives. If he didn't care, he's not going to call. If he didn't care, he's not going to waste his energy to complain and to criticize and to push him and to argue with him.
So you say
on
that
these things.
You say he cared. When you think about the end of the movie, where Adam Sandler's character literally looks at his dad who shows up in court and says, "You're here because you care."
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so he calls that out
That's
specifically. Now his dad pushes back on him and says, "Now I'm only here to make sure you don't go to jail." But
Still,
again,
that's
right, you
that
care.
actually
I
is care.
care that you don't go to jail.
Right. If I didn't care, I actually would be okay with what any outcome happens
Exactly.
to
And I
you.
wouldn't be here to see it
Yeah.
or hear
And
about it.
that is the way in with parents, because the other side of it as well, the other message is we see how much you care. Can you see that sometimes the way you're caring is not actually impacting your child in the way that you are hoping?
Interesting.
And it might actually be backfiring.
Interesting.
And that is such a meaningful way to get to someone. If someone is critical and you're critical of them, now you're just going to circle in an argument forever, or they're going to stop coming to therapy. That's for sure. But if you're validating that they want to be the best parent they can be, and it must be so hard that you're trying the way that you know and it's not working.
Right.
Now it becomes easier to say, well, let's talk about why it's not working. Let's talk about what might actually work. And I think it's so important to hold both sides of that. You care. Can we talk about things that might work a little bit better?
I really like that. I really like that. So as we think about Sonny's dad, I think it's probably a good time to bring our dads up in the conversation just a little bit.
Yeah. So what was it like for you to be raised by your dad?
It was, you think about it in two different ways, right? At least I do. I think about it in a way of what was it like to be raised by my dad in the moment? And in the moment, it was great, this bigger than life character. And that was the way that everything existed in life with my dad. And it wasn't that he was exuberant, but he was always that large presence in my life. And so as I think about it in the moment, my dad was someone who worked hard early on in life. In my life, he had a number of different jobs, moving into, middle of my childhood, he had a stable career in education. And then as I progressed through into high school and college, he had a construction business. And so he worked at different things. He never really, I would say, found his groove. And growing up with that was maybe a little challenging as I look back on it now, but now to look at it now, it was complicated growing up with my dad. And there were different emotions that I think about in that light, and how maybe I would view how he parented in some ways differently than the way that I parent. I would say growing up with my dad as a parent, I always felt that support. You mentioned, what did care look like? I think everything my dad did came out of care, came out of love, came out of a desire to see both myself and my brother succeed in what we wanted to be in life. But I think oftentimes it probably didn't jive with how to best get that out of us and how to
Mhm.
best, nurture that in us. And so,
It sounds like there's a mix for you.
yeah,
Like you're able to say, I did feel cared about.
yeah,
And sitting here right now, you can say, I see how he was caring about me,
right.
even in some of the times maybe it didn't feel
Exactly.
the way I wanted it to feel to be cared about. Yeah. So the way that it felt to be raised by my dad, I also found a mix. I felt really cared about by my dad, and I wish he would care about me different ways
Sure.
as well. He was very interested in being funny. Oftentimes he was funny. Oftentimes he was not. But he was very
But he
interested
thought he
in
was
being
funny.
funny. Yeah, for sure. Actually, one of the things that I think about that it frustrated me so badly in the moment. We were at one of my grandfather's funerals.
Mhm.
We were walking to the gravesite and looking at gravestones. It was just him and me. And he looked at me and he said, when I die on my gravestone, I want you to put everything's a joke. And I looked at him. I think I said, no. And then we kept talking. In my head, I was so angry
Yeah.
because everything isn't a joke. It
Right.
was for sure the way that he lived his life. And maybe sitting here, that is one of the ways I do know that he cared about me. He would engage at any opportunity. Oftentimes it was with a joke.
Yeah.
But he would engage at any opportunity. He was a very, very present father.
Yeah.
He did not prioritize things that would take him out of the house over things that would have him in front of his family. He was home for dinner. He was there on the weekends. He was an integral part of our home.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the experience for everyone. And so for that, I am very grateful. I think some of the things that are tricky are how important his sense of humor was to him, because it didn't always hit fine.
Did it come off sometimes
it-
as maybe he was like diminishing certain things that were going on and trying to maybe, and I don't want to speak for you, but maybe avoid some of the deeper, tougher conversations with humor?
I do think
Flex a little
so.
bit.
I do think so. And so I didn't gain a lot of experience going deeply into emotion, at least with a man. And that was, I think, a little bit tricky. But another part of it too was, like I was talking about before, I'm a little reserved. I don't like to be the center of attention like my dad did. And so when he's joking and he's making himself known in public places when I'm with him, that was also very uncomfortable for me. And that didn't feel like he cared about me.
Right.
And I know that he wasn't coming from a place of not caring about me,
Yeah.
but it was really uncomfortable.
Didn't feel like it though,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, in the moment, it doesn't always click. But when you look back on it, yeah, there was that care, but in that moment, that wasn't necessarily maybe the methodology by which you needed that care to show
Right.
up.
But
or
he was
be-
showing up, right? When he
Right.
showed up in one way, and he always showed up. And I am so grateful and positively
Sure.
impacted by him showing up versus not. But he had one way of showing up, and so also it was uncomfortable at times.
Yeah.
But it's tricky, right? There's definitely a balance. I guess maybe one thing we should add as well is sitting here talking about our dad, sitting here thinking about characters as dads. I think something that runs through this for us as well is what it's like to no longer have a dad, because we lost our fathers relatively young.
Younger than we wanted to,
Yeah.
leave it at that.
Right. Very close to each other. We lost our fathers, and that had a major impact on us as well. And I think that deserves its own episode as
For
well.
sure.
But in there, I think it is really important that we hold space for knowing that has impacted us very much
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, there's that conversation of being a dad without a dad. And we talked about that journey a little bit of becoming a dad and what that looks like. And for me, that journey always included my dad. It included my dad as a grandfather in both of my children's lives, which for my older daughter was for a very brief period of time a reality, but for my younger daughter is not a reality. And so it required a pretty significant shift in what being a dad without a dad looked like and feels like, and being a dad every day and not necessarily knowing that the next day of being a dad is promised. I take that to heart. I'm not saying that I show up as I need to every single day with my kids, because it's something that I strive towards, and I don't know that I'll ever 100% succeed in that, but it's something that for me drives that purpose. I want to be that dad every single day. So when my daughters think about I'm X kind of person because of the way that my dad showed up and cared for me. So that to me is how are you a dad without having that dad to rely on and lean back on?
Yeah, I love that. I actually want to steal that a little bit. The idea of knowing the impact my dad had on me and how important it was to have him in my life. To know I'd like that to be my children's experience, not knowing how long they'll have a dad, which
Right.
I hope is for
Very, very long
ever.
time.
But
I think
yeah,
too, it's
like
one of those,
that.
like, we always try to say there's things that we learn from our parents. And for some people, it's I want to be the same exact parent that my parent was to me. And for other people, it's I don't want to be the same parent that
Yeah.
my parent was to me at all. And I know that for me specifically, I don't want to say for you, I want to take the best parts of who my dad was when I was growing up as his kid,
Yeah.
and I want my kids to live that through me. And I want to be that for my kids.
Yeah.
And I want to take the challenging parts and I want to actively exclude those from how I'm a parent. I think it's that what do we have the opportunity to reflect on? I don't think we do a good job in society today of reflecting on people that are still around us every day. And unfortunately, we've had the opportunity to reflect on our dads and on what they've meant to us. And now that I continue to do that every day, it's important for me to actively and purposefully utilize that in how I show up as a dad to my kids.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Thinking about what it's like for me being a dad who no longer has a
As a
dad.
dad.
I think when you were talking, I was hearing I don't necessarily want to be just like my dad.
Mhm.
That was kind of what was coming up for me. And I think it comes back to the together thing, the
Yeah.
connection thing that we're trying to do here. I don't always feel like I need to know what to do, so I need to call my dad. But I think there would be a lot of value to know I can call my dad when I don't know what to do. I don't necessarily need you to tell me. I don't need your opinion. I don't need your answer. I need you, because I know you were a dad. You were my dad, to talk to me and to say, oh my gosh, yeah, I had times like that, right? Not even if you know the answer or don't know the answer or would do something 100% differently than I would, just being able to say, you're the person I like to say things out loud to. And I think that is something that is missing in my life. When my dad stuff comes up, I don't have that automatic, well, just talk to your dad about this. And maybe he can, right? Maybe he doesn't have the answer as a dad in that moment, but he has the answer of, you're right, that is hard. And I had hard times too.
Yeah.
And I talked to people too. And sometimes they gave me bad advice too. But it was nice to say it out loud. Even I could see him saying something like that. And that
He'd put some
that
paper
would
into
be
it though.
the times that he would hear what I was saying would have felt like that. But then there would be other times where I'm sure he'd say something about the word that I said that makes him think of something else, and he would tell a joke about it. But that's where, for me, the community, the connection, man up together comes back into this. A man idea usually is isolate, be strong, don't show your vulnerability. I think that's the nice word to use. Don't show your weakness. But I think asking for help, or again, not asking for help, but asking for someone to listen to you, saying, I don't know what to do, or I'm scared, or I'm overwhelmed. I think that actually is a huge strength. Because if you can look at someone and say that, now it doesn't just get to eat you from the inside. Now you actually get to kind of build your strength and power over it. And that's something that I do think is a little lacking in my life.
I appreciate you use that word scared. That's a word that comes up in the movie a couple of times. And Sonny is scared. And especially at the end of the movie, when Sonny is trying to convince his father that he should be Julian's guardian, he reflects back to his dad and says, you are scared and it's okay to be scared.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we do as men is driven in fear. And it's a fear of not showing up in the workplace in the way that we expect to. It's a fear of not showing up to our families, our partners, our spouses in the way that we believe that we should show up to them. As we talk about parents, it's a fear of not showing up to our children in the way that we hope. There's so many things to be scared about in life. Whether it's emotional, whether it's financial, whether it's social, there again,
even physical.
You get hurt. Endless things that we can be scared of. And fear drives decisions. And sometimes it drives decisions maybe that aren't the best decisions, but sometimes I think you can harness that fear a little bit to drive that. So
I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it makes me want to move into talking more about Sonny now.
Yeah.
Because
he was a free spirit.
He didn't do much of anything except for the things he wanted to do.
And he was scared of different things throughout the movie.
Yeah.
You know?
And he lived off of a settlement from getting hit by a huge taxi. He seemingly was enjoying himself, but we saw that maybe that wasn't fully true, because he had what obviously was a very unfulfilling relationship with a woman.
Right.
He was very invalidating to her when she was talking about things early on, and so they didn't have something very healthy and close and connected. And she probably also judged him a lot for his lack of ambition and motivation to do something more. And his apartment was a little bit messy. He covered spills, whether they're pee, puke, or milk, with newspaper and left them for a little. And he laid on the couch and watched hockey and ate snacks. And that sounds lovely.
And wrestling. What was it? Chief J. Strombo with the choke.
The sleeper hold.
And he ordered a lot from the Cozy's delivery guy.
And went to Central Park to watch people trip while they're rollerblading. This was his life.
Lots of ambition.
Yeah. And that person had a kid show up at his door, and I guess in his mind he had some sort of figure this out, and knew nothing. One of the first questions he asked the 6-year-old kid, however old he was, "You drink formula?" And he just didn't know. He went to bed at 2:30 the first night he had him. He puked because
he was jumping around eating candy and he was hungry. And
right.
What do you eat? Food? I mean, let's be honest. We gotta have to ask the most important question in the movie. Do you wipe your own ass?
I wipe my own ass.
I mean, that was, again, but back to what he knew, what he didn't know. Obviously, he knew humans needed nutrition of some capacity. He knew that Julian at one point was scared of the dark. So how does he help that? Well, he brings a nightlight in. Unfortunately, it's a neon light that is from a strip club that says live news. What is he showing? He's showing that he wants to be there in whatever that capacity that he believes at that point that Julian is looking for.
Right. And through messages he was getting from other people, I think that's really interesting to think about too. He rejected a lot of messages from people of how he should parent, which maybe all parents probably can recognize in themselves sometimes, but then he did shift into recognizing for himself, here are ways that can help this child more and more. Here are ways that I'm realizing he's thriving, and ways that I can help him to feel proud of himself and maybe be healthier and less of the smelly kid in class.
Well, that was the one person who I think was able
his aha moment
to strike some compassion or strike some semblance of recognition into his life. And it's funny that it was because Julian was the stinky kid in class. He didn't care that he had the kid in class that was wearing boxers over his shorts or was wearing boxing gloves and
peeing in the tree in the corner.
He just didn't want to have the stinky kid in class. And that snowballed into how he was going to show up better. Or not even better. Let's change the word better to differently. How he was going to show up differently in Julian's life. And it turned into importance of reading and bathing and studying. There was the play where he was Benjamin Franklin. And what I think I really like about Sonny is that once Julian came into his life, he went 100% into Julian. And in the beginning, that may have looked like, from an outsider's perspective of parenting, an appropriate way that he went 100% in, giving him all the candy he wanted, letting him watch all the Kangaroo song that he wanted, letting him do whatever he wanted every single day. But I think what it turned into at the end of the movie was he dressed up as Benjamin Franklin and flew a kite next to the Statue of Liberty. He helped him to hold up signs to the rollerbladers in Central Park to slow down and be careful and cautious. They went to Barney's and got new clothes.
He taught the delivery guy how to read.
that, but he dove 100% head first
Yeah.
into, I'm going to be that parent and I'm going to do whatever I believe is the right thing for Julian at that time.
And I think where this now comes back again is he realized this isolated, different than my friends, easier life wasn't actually giving him what he
Right.
wanted. And he didn't find that until he had to show up for another human being, with another human being, find more of that community and purpose.
Right.
And it spread. He found a woman that he really liked, and he started to become a lawyer. He actually found purpose after purpose was kind of pushed
Right.
upon him. And it actually makes me think a little bit about the car thing we talked about last time, where I don't look at my car and say, that's fine that it looks that way.
Right.
I look at it and say, that can't feel like a priority for me right
Right.
now. It does make me wonder. You brought this up before when we're talking about his dad growing up with that pressure. Did it lead him to rebel? Rebelling in some way can often be recognizing, I don't have what they're asking for.
Mhm.
I need to push into something that's more comfortable for me. I accidentally got this. What did he get? $200,000. Now I can live in New York City and buy surfboards. And so something drove him to that.
Yeah.
I can slow down. I can stop. I don't have to live up to what other people want for me, what I think I'm supposed to do because my friends are doing it. And instead, he came to it when it felt right for him.
Mhm.
He came to it when the energy built up on its own instead of externally. And that resonated a lot with me as well.
Now it's an important factor for
Yeah.
sure.
But going back into the parenting part of it, I'd love to bring us back into this as well, right? We talked about a little what he did maybe not so great as a parent and what he did well as a parent. And I think that it would be cool for us to be able to talk about as well what we feel like we do well as a parent, our strength, and something that isn't necessarily a strength for us as parents.
Yeah. So when I think about me as a parent, I think my biggest strength is my love for my children. It is an unending love
Mhm.
for my girls, and I would do anything for them. And I know that most parents, a lot of parents say, I'll do anything for my children. And that's fantastic. I would do anything for my girls. I'm not saying that's a good thing because sometimes that manifests itself in a way of my girls can get away with things that maybe they probably shouldn't because I want that love constantly for them. But it's also what drives me in my career every single day so that I can continue to provide for my children. It drives me in my relationship with my wife. And I know that relationships with your spouse, in my opinion, should be built on more than just the fact that you have offspring with that spouse. But I learn from my wife every single day how to continue to be a better parent, and it drives that connection with my wife every single day. And so for me, I would say my love for my children is both my biggest strength and also a challenge that I have because I don't say no. I'm not good at saying no to my girls sometimes. And so that can be a hard one. What about you, Tom?
So it's interesting because the strength I feel like I have is very similar to my dad, where presence is the thing that feels like the biggest priority for me.
Yeah.
I will change my schedule for anything the kids need. I'm talking about permanently, not
Yeah.
just day to day. My last session ends at 3 p.m. every
Right.
day because I have to pick up one of my girls and get home and make dinner so that
Right.
when my wife and my other daughter come home, we're ready to go and I can just be with them. And I don't do phone calls or emails
I know that you
as
don't
much as
you do not answer them. You know, if I need to get in touch with Alex after call it 3:30, 3:45 when he gets to the house, I should probably call your wife and say, "Hey, can I talk to Al?" It'll be 7:30, 8 o'clock after bedtime. You know what? I envy that sometimes. I envy that. And I think that's a fantastic quality for sure.
Thank you. I also do it a little bit differently than my father because I do try and find a different emotional level with them. One thing that was also similar, my dad was very physically affectionate,
Yeah.
a lot of hugs and snuggles. And that's something that shows up in me as a parent as well. I want my kids to feel physically taken care of and loved. And
Your safe space.
Yeah, when I think about, I'm gonna get in like the nerdy therapy thing, but we need our nervous systems to feel safe. And
Yeah.
one of the ways that that happens is by co-regulation, which means sometimes we need another nervous system to help our nervous system. And I want
You
my
wanna
nervous
be that
system to be
nervous
available
system.
for them, because that is one of the ways that I show my love and one of the ways that I feel driven to be a parent. One of the things that is my weakness, though, is, and I don't think this connects to my dad, but there are just times where I know how old they are, but I can't handle it. There's times where they're just eating too slow or keep getting up or not over the plate, or I told them what to do 17 times because we have to get out of the house and there's no urgency and they're not being nice to each other. And there are times when I'm on it, I nail it. It's great. And there are just
Feels good,
times
right?
where it is so far from that. I raise my voice and I get impatient
Yeah.
and I don't feel good about what comes out sometimes. And it's hard to say, well, I know what to do and I'm just going to do it, when it just hits me like a wave.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm working on and
Yeah.
always wanting to get better at. And to be honest, that is definitely my weakness.
I think that's a big part of man up. Sometimes it's, well, no, you have a weakness? What are we talking about? Like, that's crazy. Like, you're not,
Right.
men don't have weaknesses.
Mm.
We're men. I think it's an important part of that. And as I think about one of the things we joked about it, my truck, what was it? The barrier to entry was take your shoes off. And sometimes my anxiety around what a mess looks like, it's not just my truck. It's the house. It's the girls' bedrooms. It's all of that. And I fear sometimes, am I taking that away from my girls of, no, you can have a shaving cream fight. It's fine. But am I taking that away because I don't want to deal with the repercussions, the cleaning up of a shaving cream fight? But that's something that's it's pervasive through not only my parenting, but it's my life. It's my interaction with my wife and the world around me. For everybody who is listening and with us, what I want to challenge you with is look at those weaknesses as opportunities. What are those opportunities, and what drives some of those challenges that we have, those weaknesses that we have, those opportunities that we have, and how can we work on that together? I can't tell you how many reels my wife sends me all the time where it's like, kids are washable.
Kids are washable.
I get it. Kids are washable. The floor is washable. And so I think that that's
Is this where we overlay the picture of one of your daughters with Sharpie all over her
we
stuff?
absolutely should.
Kids are mostly washable.
My younger daughter somehow got a hold of a permanent Sharpie marker in the back of my wife's car. Now, my older daughter was sitting right next to her watching all of this happen. The next thing my wife knew, because I wasn't in the car at the time, was that my younger daughter had decorated herself head, face to toe with Sharpie marker.
Sorry to interrupt, but I felt like that might be important.
Kids are mostly washable at that. All right, talking about kids, let's talk about Julian.
Yeah.
Because I think Julian changes throughout this movie. Julian shows up at Sonny's door as a very, very frightened little 5 or 6-year-old boy. He's brought there by a 12-year-old boy who some lady gave me $5 to bring him over here. And I know Julian changes throughout the movie. And what I think is fascinating about, I think, child actors, their ability to be actors is fascinating.
I think it's 2.
Is it 2?
I think it was twins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a little bit of sense there. But Julian's transition through learning that his dad wasn't there, that Sonny was going to be his dad, but wasn't his dad. And then all the way to the end of the movie, Layla, who is Sonny's girlfriend at the time, is asking him questions in court. If your mom could pick anybody here to be your dad, who would it be? And he immediately is Sonny. And I think that change for Julian throughout the movie, to me, or throughout that story, is just fascinating. Obviously, you have all the cool parts, all the funny parts, his ability to hawk a loogie and it hits the floor and he sucks it back into his mouth, his
slingshot aim
with the pigeons outside, his phenomenal style with his underwear over his shorts. But for me, Julian is really a fantastic and really curious character in the movie, but highlights that journey that we have talked about.
Yeah, I think he's a great depiction of what children need. Children are pretty resilient.
They're washable.
They are watchable in a lot of ways. And so I actually love that because you can talk about that in the literal sense, but you can
Right.
also talk about it in a deeper way where to be a good parent, to be a good support to a child, you don't actually have to be perfect, but to realize that sometimes the washing is the powerful moment, messing up and being able to say, I did raise my voice at you for being 7 today, my 7-year-old child or 4-year-old child. And I didn't like that either. You were doing something that was frustrating to me, but that doesn't mean you should be yelled at. It means we should talk about it and figure it out. Sonny made some mistakes, but he also nailed some things early on.
Mhm.
He gave him space to
Pick his own name.
start to get comfortable.
Right.
I'll give you the sunglasses. I'll hold your hand. You can fall asleep and pee on me on the way home.
I'll pee on the building with you.
Exactly.
Right.
And the freedom that he gave him made it that he went through a crazy transition, but made it safe for him to start saying, I want to go to school. And then he also did get comfortable and want to play video games instead of taking a bath and studying. But then there was room to slowly move his way into this is what it looks like to create boundaries and structure and healthy habits. And it was through being silly sometimes, dressing up as Scuba Sam and telling him he could be in the scuba squad, but only if he's clean and does his homework, and having other people in the home who can work with him and talk to him and not be as good at reading as him.
Damn you! You gave him the easy ones!
It showed that the safety was consistent presence, care. I care about you. I want to figure this out with you. I want to surround you with people who care about you. I want to make mistakes along the way and continue to learn what the right thing is going to be. I want to be proud of you, whether it's because you can spit to the ground and shoot it back up, or because you learned every line of the play. And
or when he learned to tie his shoes. To me,
Yeah.
like, that's such a powerful moment because it's one that I know I've dealt with my older daughter, and we're close. We're getting there. We do loop, swoop, and pull.
Nice.
And it's one of those moments that really envelops what success can look like as a parent. I know that I have had such frustrations, but when I look at my daughter, when she gets her shoes on and she ties her shoes, and that look on her face of, I did that myself, man, that's a win. It feels
celebrate
good
that with them.
inside. But to your point, I know for a fact myself, I've lost myself trying to get into the car.
Yeah.
And to your point exactly of, no, like, you're a 5-year-old. It's okay to be a 5-year-old today. So I'll tell you a story real quick. So one of the parts of the movie, Sonny has his friends over and they're playing cards and they're playing poker, I think. Julie.
No, they're not.
Well, I don't remember what they're playing.
They're playing I Win.
Yeah.
I got a 6, a 5, a jack, a 4, and an 8. I win.
A couple of months ago, we were playing cards at our house, and my older daughter, was looking through, and she had learned the suits on the cards, and she was calling them out. And she called out the card. She goes, "Does that mean I win?" And I laughed because I immediately went
I
to
win.
Big Daddy. But when you look back at it, this is a kid who just wants that validation of, I won. I learned something new. I did something
Be
cool.
proud of me.
I win. So I just love that I win part of the story. All right. So when we think about our kids, we have our visions, just like Sonny's dad had a vision of what he wanted his kid to be. He had his hope. We also have our fears for our kids. So let's talk about us personally, some of our hopes and our fears for our children as we think about them.
Yeah. So the way I'm really thinking about this is in the context of what I realize is hard for me to handle in the moment, because I want to say my hopes and my fears are very pure and beautiful, but based on how I handle myself around them. I think my hopes are I would love them to be safe and successful at everything they do. And I would love everyone around them to treat them the way I think they deserve to be treated. And my fears probably are just
The
flip those.
opposite.
What if you are not able to succeed at something that you find important one day? What if someone isn't nice to you?
Right.
What if you get hurt? That one's actually really hard for me.
Yeah.
My kids do anything that's adjacently dangerous. Stop, 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 stop. And I think the washable of that too is kids' bodies are very resilient as well.
They're kind of bendable.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes they even break and they'll still
And
be
it's okay.
okay.
Right.
And I have a hard time with that. And another thing for me is what if they're not taken care of by other people? But
Sure.
what if they don't take care of other people either? When they're not kind to each other or to me or my wife or to a friend, or if they don't look up when their grandparents come over and say, "Hi, I'm so happy to see you." And what if they're not nice?
Yeah.
That's a scary thing for me because I think they should be not. I haven't fully understood why that's so important. I just feel like it's an important human skill. And those are the things that make it hard for me to remember when you're 7 and almost 4. You're not going to have all this stuff handled. And messing up and making mistakes and hurting someone else's feelings and having your feelings hurt along the way is not the way you get to be unkind, unsuccessful, hurt person in your life. It's bumps along the way. So I do have a hard time with that, but I think that's why it's important we're talking about as well, being able to say out loud some of my fears, all of my fears, I think are valid. It's okay for me to have these
100%.
fears. And the way I go about them is not necessarily what is bringing me towards success. To bring it back to what we were talking about before, I don't think not letting them climb on something in the bathroom is going to be what makes them successful. Maybe falling down and learning. If I'm on a tile floor, I shouldn't climb something. They can learn. They can make mistakes. They can hurt someone's feeling and then learn what it's like for that person to need to protect themselves from them for a little bit. They can not pick up on the addition skills that are going to get them past their math midnits. And that doesn't mean they're never going to succeed in life in whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And if I go slow with them and I just am proud of them and care about them and I'm curious about what's going on for them, likely that's going to be more powerful for them than for me to bubble them in some way.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, it echoes a lot of what you're saying. I hope my girls find their voice and trust their voice throughout the rest of their life. And that voice is going to change. That voice is going to have different meaning and different purpose. But my hope for them is that they embrace that voice and they have people that will listen to them. I hope my girls surpass me in every single way possible. I want them to be braver than I am. I want them to be stronger than I am. I want them to be more successful than I am. Obviously, my fear, very much like you, is the opposite of all those things. If I were to break down what some of my fears are, personally, having a dad who passed away suddenly, I have a fear that can happen. And that's a scary thing. I don't want my girls to have to deal with that and go through that. Anything in the world, I want my girls to be kind individuals. And I fear that they won't be. I fear that today's society almost pushes us towards that unkindness. And I want them to realize that if it's harder to be kind, take that harder path, do that harder thing. So obviously I want them to be healthy. I want them to have all their dreams come true. I asked my daughter the other day, my 6-year-old, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a princess ballerina. I want you to be a princess ballerina. And in 10 years, if you still want to be a princess ballerina, I'll ask some questions.
And if you
But you know what? I am going to go and I'm going to help you build a castle and it's going to have a ballerina studio and all the things because you want to be a princess ballerina. And I want to continue to nurture those needs for them every single day. When I think back to my parents, my mom and my dad, both always wanted my brother and I to do whatever it was that we wanted to do in our lives. I don't know that my parents were ever very confident that I wouldn't be an equine nutritionist, but they never once slammed that door in my face and said, you can't do that because there's no future in that. If you want to be a princess ballerina, go be a princess ballerina, and the rest will sort itself out at the end of the day. So the parental background on that was powerful for me.
Yeah, it's cool that you were able to find your princess
It is a
ballerina
princess
outcome,
ballerina
Bobby, and
job.
you have become the princess ballerina.
Hey, nobody
Congrats,
wants to
man.
see me dress up like a ballerina, but I can be a pretty good princess if you ask my daughters.
You were just talking about thinking about what you wanted to be as a parent.
Yeah.
Are there things that you think about, this is what I wanted it to look like, this is what I was thinking it was going to come out as, and can realize, wow, this is how different it is to actually be a parent?
I don't know that I had preconceived notions going into parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
I had preconceived fears.
Sure.
I had things that I was unsure of. I had things that I was worried about. I had things that I wanted to make sure that I understood. My wife is the best parent I've ever met in my life and continues to teach me how to be a good parent every day. She has convinced me to read books and articles and things that I never would have read in my life. Hashtag moms on call. But I have a vision now of how I want to be a dad. I don't know if I knew how I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to make sure that I was present. I wanted to make sure that I was responsible. I wanted to make sure that I was caring and kind and loving. I don't know that I knew how that was going to come across as a dad.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I took it as a project. Like, this is just a thing that's going to happen. And so if I just do all these steps, it'll be great. And so I think a word that I would use is have to do all the perfect things, whatever I thought was perfect.
Mhm.
We aren't going to buy baby food. We're going to puree everything. And we're going to,
Did you buy the little glass mason jars also, or did you
yeah,
use the?
I think
Yeah,
we used them once.
yeah.
Um,
They're in a drawer. They're in a drawer somewhere in the kitchen.
You know, the thing about baby food is someone else made it. I didn't realize that your life changes when you have a kid. You don't just add the project in of
That's it.
now we do the bedtimes and now we do the activities. You also don't sleep for several months, and the kid moves and talks and gets sick and decides their own things.
That was a big one.
I had very little energy to take care of not Dad Alex's vision. All I had was the energy to be there and try and do the best I could to be present. And if they did tummy time enough time, great. And if they didn't, they're gonna be okay. And we also had a 1-year-old during COVID. So I also tried to be perfectly present there and read the books however many times she wanted. And however much you love your child, you can't be interested
Sure.
in toddler books. And you for sure can't be interested in reading or hearing
I don't know.
this
There was the
44 times in a row.
There was the quantum mechanics for babies. That one I got a little.
Max sent you that
I was
too.
yeah. I was around with quantum mechanics for babies, but yeah. Once the other ones were just.
And so one thing that I had to learn also is pre-parent Alex didn't realize there's a different version of balance you have to find as well. It's great to want to give it all to your kid, but then what about breathing? What about you got to do a little bit of work, have to have a relationship with your wife. That was actually just about it during COVID. So there wasn't so much more to do,
Right.
But I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out. What does it mean to know I'm showing up the way I want to for others and know that I'm showing up the way I need to in order to continue to maintain that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, always going to be tricky and always going to be a beautiful journey to continue along.
I think one of the hard things for me, you talk about being present, and I commend, like I commend your ability to turn off the outside world around you for your kids. And one of the things that I will always regret, and I don't like regrets. It's something that I struggle with, to be honest with you. One thing that
having regrets.
I regret having regrets.
Yeah.
After our first daughter was born, I didn't take a paternity leave. I took a couple days off, and I didn't take a prolonged paternity leave. I prioritized a budding career at the time. And I know that I will never get those times back. But if I could look back, it's something that I could say what did I want to do differently as a parent, or how did I want to show up differently, both as a parent as a spouse? Because I think that was another part of that early, newborn period, was showing up for my wife at the time too, but was how I showed up immediately postpartum. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't take that paternity well. I always kind of think back on that. I changed that second child. So if you do have that opportunity in your career, in your life, with your job, one guy's vote, take some time, be with your spouse, be with your newborn. You never get that from back.
I could just take whatever I want. I took, I think, almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was pretty short.
Yeah. It goes so quick, especially when you're not sleeping. It goes what is it? The hours are long, the days are short.
Hours.
So long. Yes. Man.
Yeah. So one more thing I actually wanted to talk about before we finish with Julian is talking about boys.
Okay.
Because we have a combined zero sons between the two of us. Just something that I find interesting. We're excited about his spitting skills. Took him to watch people crash in Central Park. I remember one moment in the movie where he had a stick and he was swinging around, whacked one of Adam Sandler's friends.
Ow! Nice cut, pal.
He didn't say, "Oh no, don't hit other people." Right. He was like, "Ooh, look at that! That was a good swing."
Good for him.
Yeah, and it makes me think: how do we socialize boys versus girls? Yeah. And when I was having kids, I was like, I don't want everything to be pink and princesses, and so I'm not going to push that on her. And it got there anyways. Oh, yes. And maybe that's society. Maybe that's just the way that my daughters were.
Our first child, we bought 0 pink clothes. It was very intentional. We bought 0 pink things.
But also,
the amount of pink my children own right now would astonish you.
All of it. My older daughter plays softball and likes to watch football, and I think there's connection in that as well. I coach softball, and she likes to watch the Vikings with me and the Gators with me.
Poor kid.
I know. Speak of regrets. And I think there's beauty to having that, as well as knowing what they like is what they like, and sometimes girls gravitate towards this, boys gravitate toward that. Maybe it's because that's how our society is, and it was just interesting to see that in the movie as well.
Yeah, coming as that girl dad again, I'm very much in that mindset of, you want to be a princess ballerina? I'm going to be a princess ballerina with you. You want to go play softball, baseball, football? We'll talk about the football head thing. You want to play football?
I wouldn't let my son play football anymore.
You want to do all those things? I'm going to coach you. I'm going to be in the stands with you. And I think that going back to the movie, that was, I think, what Sonny was doing. He was there and he was going to support Julian. And yes, they portrayed it in the movie as, you get that bat and you swing it at your neighbor, or you get your slingshot and you slingshot those pigeons in New York. I want to believe, though, that if Julian said, I want to go and do something that we would typically associate with girls, that Sonny would have been, I'm right there with you. I'm gonna be 100% there. And so I think that when I think about parenting, when I think about, my girls, and again, like you said, we have a combined 0 male children between the two of us. Thankfully, we have some close friends that have only extra male children. There is a dichotomy there, and I think it's also a good thing to maybe recognize and say, great, push it to the side, and we're going to let our girls, boys do what it is that they want to do, and then how they want to grow up and how they want to be kids and learn about the world around them.
Cool to look at movies in this way. This is just a silly movie that was fun to quote and to watch throughout our lives.
We used to walk around camp singing the Kangaroo song. You remember this, right?
Yes.
I don't think we ever at the time, in 2000 and, oh my gosh, probably 3. No, it was earlier than that, 2000, 2001, where we ever would have thought that singing the Kangaroo song would have brought us to analyzing Big Daddy for themes in the way that we did.
But I think there's beauty to that too, that there actually was vulnerability in this and men having feelings and struggling and figuring things out.
Right.
And it's
So-
cool to see that. And again, the purpose of this is not to think we know about other people, but quite the opposite, to realize we don't know about other people. And we could judge someone who's got a messy apartment and his girlfriend broke up with him and he's not working, he's blowing money on silly things. Or we can say, what might be going on? Are there ways I can reach out? Are there ways that I can join with this person?
How can I man up together with that guy, right?
Yeah, how can we
Oh,
understand
boy.
what's going on together? And
I love it.
I think that'll be a cool thing for us to continue to do with other movies and other men. And
So hopefully Adam Sandler sees this, right?
yeah, and he's like, wow, these guys.
Yeah, these guys are awesome. Let's go play golf together.
Yeah. Let's talk about now what we envision for some other episodes.
Yeah.
So one thing I think we'd love to do at some point is interviews. Again, Adam Sandler, if you're watching, you can definitely be our first
Call us out.
interviewee. Just let us know. Or second, it's fine.
Either way.
But I also think it would be cool to read some books. And I don't know if we've picked out a book yet, but check our Instagram, Man Up Together podcast, and we'll post on there when we know what it's going to be. Because I think there'll be a lot of silliness that we can find in movies and a lot of fun we can find in understanding ourselves from our cars. And I also think that it could be meaningful to try and use our brains in a different way. I know I've completely sworn off reading. As a PhD, I'm sure you're maybe a little bit different than me, but
It's a couple books
I've sworn off reading for several years, even though I have enjoyed it in the past. And I think it's important to make time for that and to want to learn and be critical of ideas and doing that together.
And what I would say
would be a
too
good
is
thing.
picking up a book that maybe you don't think you're going to pick up.
Mhm.
Right. That a couple of times recently, I found myself reading books outside of the science books that I read on a very regular basis. I like reading about military aviation, but I picked up a book recently that I had no desire to read based off of the cover and the summary, and it turned out to be great. And so I think that this is going to be one of those where maybe some of the books are going to be more up your alley in some ways. But
We're going to learn.
I'm excited to read maybe some things that I never thought I would take a second to look at it. But I'm looking forward to that.
And so we'd love if you want to read those books with us or to know, well, I don't have to read the book. Bobby and Alex
They're
will
gonna
just
do it
talk
for me.
about it. We'd love to be there for you to help you with that.
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out as time goes along. If you have books that you realize this could be a really meaningful thing for men to wrap their heads around, definitely send us an email, questions at manuptogetherpodcast.com. Also, to remind you, we want to end our episodes with a win and a challenge. Definitely send us emails with some of those that you got. We'd love to share other people's and not just have you sit here and listen to our garbage forever. So we'll actually jump into that now. I did my mistake last time, so you got a good one?
Yeah, I got a good one. So we've talked about parenting a lot. My mistake has nothing to do with parenting.
Phew.
I got into an argument with my wife this week, and I was quick to anger. I was quick to judgment. I was quick to frustration. It was at that time something that I knew was a mistake. As the words were coming out of my mouth, as the frustration was boiling over, it was a mistake. And one that my wife and I, we've worked through, we continue to talk about. It's a mistake.
Is there something you would want to target of, I would like to learn this one thing from it?
I think it's the ability to take a step back from the moment. I think sometimes I get myself worked up and I let my emotional response overwhelm my intellectual response. So for me, it's how do I allow those emotions to come out, because I believe that those emotions are real. I believe that those emotions are valid, but it's how do I temper those emotions so that I can allow that intellectual response to join forces. I'm not saying that what we got in an argument about wasn't valid or wasn't important or wasn't something that we maybe should have had a conversation about, but instead of the conversation, we had an argument.
You want to slow down.
Exactly.
I like
That's
that.
it.
Nice.
What's your win?
Okay. So my win is that I think this whole together thing is working. If you remember, my challenge last week was to be more intentional about being aware of my life. What are some mistakes? What are some wins? What are some challenges you would have? And I have a little list of them in my phone. And when I write them, I start to learn from them. And I have actually taken a dustbuster to the ground of my car, and you can see it a little bit. And I have been showing up to work and taking the headphones off and getting some things done because that was my mistake
Right.
last week. And I just also feel like there's a different presence happening for me. I'm more plugged in to what's going on, what matters to me, what I want to matter to me, because I'm trying to engage in this process in a genuine and authentic way. And it's exciting and it is really cool to feel it kind of pulsing through me. And I hope that's something that you can feel. I hope it's something that we can start to create in other people, because it feels really good to know I'm accountable because I'm saying it out loud, because I'm talking to someone important in my life, because I'm trying to talk about this in the presence of others. And
I love it.
it's feeling good.
So what gave you that? Because we talked about, like, you recognize that it's not, I don't recognize my car needs to be vacuumed. It's that I didn't have that emotional currency in order to do that. So what gave you that feeling? What made you take that dustbuster to your car?
That's a really good question. I think it's two things. One is now I'm accountable. I can't lie to myself anymore because I didn't lie to you.
Okay.
I said last week, I lied to my wife. It's not a big deal. It's not that bad. And she knows I'm just struggling.
Right.
But now I'm saying, yes, I actually am struggling with this. I'm acknowledging, I'm admitting, I'm being aware of this. And the other part is the connection with you, the connection with my wife. Even she's excited about this, and we talk about this, and she's doing the Instagram part of it. And
love it.
Just the connection with other people is actually building energy for me. So now I have a little more energy and a little more self-awareness, and I'm putting them together, and it's saying, go,
You have it.
do a little bit more. And then the thing that happens is I go, oh, this actually feels good to get it done. And it builds even more energy. And I have a few less things to do. And so it's
snowball.
It's,
I love that.
It's really cool. And I do want this to be something other people benefit from, but I'm going to hold strong to this idea that at least I'm going to get something out of this, and it feels good.
Absolutely. I love
So
that.
thank you again.
Got it. Anytime.
What's your challenge?
Yeah, so my challenge is a simple one. It's, you talked about the presence, and I joked, but not joked, about your inability to contact Alex on his cell phone in the evenings. My challenge is to do that. I found myself both by myself and then with gentle prodding from my wife to put my cell phone down at the dinner table. It's not because I don't want to be around my kids. It's not because I'm trying to escape my family by being on my cell phone. It's because I'm reading the news that I didn't read all day long. It's because I am looking at a text message that I got and know that I got 8 hours ago, but maybe didn't respond in the way that I wanted to. I'm continuing to read emails from work that are coming through. Again, not because anybody from work expects me to be emailing them during dinner, but it's because of me. And so my challenge for myself is just put the damn cell phone down. Put it down. That's my challenge for myself. And it's not going to come tomorrow. It's not going to come next week, but I think that it's going to be a progression. I think I'll need the continual reminders from my wife. My older daughter now also is I would say mimicking the wife. So, Daddy, put your cell phone down. And I want to put that cell phone down. So that's the goal. I'm going to work on it. We'll see where it goes.
Love that.
So if you see me with my cell phone, slap it out of my hand.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it down. Something like that.
Exactly what we want to get out of
That's
that.
it. Right?
Accountability and help from others.
That's it.
There you go.
All right,
Well, again, I really appreciate you doing this with me. And please email us questions at manuptogetherpodcast.com with your mistakes, wins, challenges, agreements you're having with others, disagreements you're having with us as you watch this.
If you think Big Daddy sucked,
Tell us why. If you tell us why, we do want to hear it.
Yeah.
These books we should read. And as a reminder, we'll read your first name if that's what you want to give us. If you don't, pick a character from a movie, a show, something that's not real that you think would resonate with what you're sharing, and we'll read it out that way. But thank you for continuing on this journey with us. We look forward to seeing you next week so we can continue to man up together. See you next week.
The Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.